I'd like to welcome Mike Miller back to the show. Mike joins us from Pond Pro Shop in Shawnee. And today we're going to talk about winterizing our water garden. And there's a lot of pieces to think about, aren't there?
Yes, there is, but it's not difficult, and you really are looking to shut it down to make it easier for you to open it up come spring.
Okay.
So that's what we really are talking about. First, we talk about the plants. They're going to die at the first frost.
Right.
And when that happens, you should trim off that foliage and remove it from the pond. Otherwise, it sinks to the bottom and becomes part of that organic matter down there that feeds the algae. Cold water, cold weather typically doesn't allow the algae to grow as much, but you still don't want to leave all that down on the bottom because it's going to get ahead of you in the spring.
Right.
So trim off anything that dies and falls into the water, and that would include any of your terrestrial plants around the edges.
Okay.
Because you might have some tall plants, cannas, that might drop into the pond, drop their leaves or their flowers. You want to make sure that you get those out as well.
Okay.
Okay, so
Now,
clean all that out. If you have a submerged plant like a lily, you would want to trim that off about an inch or two above the crown and set the pot down in the lowest part of the pond. 24 inches in Oklahoma is sufficient for fish and hardy lilies to winter over.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned hardy lilies because some of the lilies that we have in water gardens are tropical and they will not survive in the bottom of our pond. So those we could try to overwinter indoors.
Yes, and you can find all kinds of help online that will tell you how to winter those over. And I have customers that are successful, but I have more that aren't.
Yeah, well, and there's always more at the stores in the springtime.
That's right, that's right. It's available in the spring.
Now, what about the fish? You talked about the fish a little bit.
Okay, you have the koi and the goldfish, and those are cousins. They're members of the carp family. So there's really no difference in the way you want to treat those for the winter time. Mainly, you want to protect them by putting a net over the pond so that the predators that are flying across Oklahoma going south for the winter and coming back north in the spring are not going to get down and eat your fish.
Right.
Okay, so put a net over the top of your pond. That's important to do. The other thing you want to bear in mind is that fish don't feed at temperatures below 55 degrees water temp.
Okay.
Not
the air
ambient
temp.
temperature, it's the water temperature. So from 65 down to 55, we would recommend that you feed a higher, easily digestible food, higher in protein, maybe that contains wheat germ. That would be good for your fish to go into the winter, keeps them healthy. They're going to live off their fat almost like a bear in hibernation.
Okay. Yeah, but and if we feed them when they're not feeding, we're just adding to that organic matter.
That's right. They will eat, and I know that they come up and just look pitiful and they beg to be fed, but you don't need to feed them. They're going to eat out of the pond if they really are hungry, and they're really not. Their metabolism slows down so much in the wintertime that they're not going to feed at all.
Now, and you mentioned the netting to protect the fish. We also use that to catch some of the leaves that fall down.
We start that in August usually in Oklahoma because the leaves are going to start falling from the trees as we go through this drought. So we will have a lot of leaf falling into the water. We'll put the net over it to catch those. We usually try and build a dome out of PVC pipe. So as the leaves fall on the net, they fall down to the side and we can blow them off with our leaf blower and move them out of the way.
Now, some of the stuff falls through, like we have a pine tree here. The net, even though we use a really fine net, some of that gets through. Do we need to worry about cleaning that out in the fall and the winter?
You're probably going to do that in the spring.
Okay.
Okay, so it'll be all right. Whatever gets through the net, you can live with until springtime and do a good spring clean out then.
Okay. Are there any other considerations as we winterize our water garden?
The UV light. That's something that a lot of folks overlook. The UV light needs to be cleaned if it can be removed. If your system is such that you can take that light out, remove it, clean it, and put it away in the garage until springtime when you need it. You're not going to have much algae growth during the wintertime, so you might as well save that bulb.
Well, thank you very much for joining us again and for all the useful information you've been giving us.
Thank you for having me.